Hello everyone, my name is Marina Dolgacheva and today I'm going to speak about switching from vocabulary builders to vocabulary enjoyers. But let me start with some brief information about myself. I'm currently working as Director of Studies of Teachers programs, and I'm a methodologist, teacher trainer, state school teacher. I've been working at school for more than 20 years now. And I'm a huge fan of the lexical approach, have a soft spot for it. And I'm really happy that I had a chance to give a talk at IATEFL conference to speak about the lexical approach and switching teachers' mindset to teaching lexically. So no wonder today I'm going to speak about the vocabulary. And let's start with the vocabulary that we usually teach.
Хотите постоянно развиваться в преподавании иностранных языков? Школа Дмитрия Никитина проводит образовательные тренинги, конференции и курсы для преподавателей. Подробности о событиях можно узнать по ссылке в описании.
There are different classifications, different types of vocabulary. Today I'm going to stick to the three types. First of all, the target vocabulary, or it's what a book that we stick to, that we use in our educational process. I mean, the authors of the book or the school curriculum want us to teach. That's modal vocabulary. It's basically the structures, vocabulary, grammatical structures, grammaticalized vocabulary structures that are used in texts, in scripts, in separate sentences that are given in the course book that we use. And the third group is so-called emergent vocabulary. It's what basically our students want to say right now at the moment of speaking. It might be not connected to the target vocabulary or to the topic itself. It might be functional vocabulary. It might be, I don't know, something triggered by discussing what is happening in the family, in the world, and etc., etc. So the next question is, what do our students do to start using the vocabulary that we teach? Because, well, three groups of vocabulary, like if we count how many vocabulary units that make, so I believe students are just snowed under with those vocabulary units that are keep on rolling on them every lesson because, well, a lot of them, plenty of them, dozens of them. So what do our students do? They might, well, the easiest way, something that I believe most of us used to do back in school, yeah, taking notes, having the vocabulary notes and stuff. It was probably successful for some of the students, might be not. So the basic activity that we ended up doing with those vocabulary notes was that we wrote them down, and next lesson we had some spelling test with them, and that's basically it. What else can our students do to try to learn and to try to use the vocabulary? So students create various lists of words. It might be Google Docs. It can be lists in their notebooks. It can be creating Quizlet cards to drill the meaning of the vocabulary units that they're learning, the words, the lexes. It can be can list of or even more list of words here. So I have it twice. It can be relying on students' memory. They say, okay, I like this one. I like this collocation. I will not forget it. But they forget it the moment the lesson is over. And what the teacher does, or what the book does, or what the world does to the student who's learning the language, they bring even more vocabulary to learn. So that's how a student is building that wall. So in this case, where in the topic of the today's talk, I used this collocation of a vocabulary builder, meaning not those booklets or books where we can find various vocabulary on the topic, like sentences using some collocations in context and stuff. No, a vocabulary builder in this case is our student who is trying to create that list of vocabulary that they need to memorize somehow. But in the end, despite all the efforts, everything goes to the wall, literally, because that wall creates a kind of a barrier between a student and the real usage of the language. Vocabulary is asking like, remember me, and a student will say, okay, no. A student might be wary of using the vocabulary, and this is how we can talk about the so-called worry wall. Those fears or those concerns that students often have when they are overwhelmed with the amount of vocabulary they need to learn. Well, they think they need to learn, because well, everything which is given must be taken. That's what they say. And of course, first of all, in terms of the learning environment, the worry wall contains the fears of those kind of testing activities. Oftentimes, students struggle with filling in the gaps with the correct words because they can hardly remember what phrases or what chunks they learned the previous lesson or several lessons ago. Let alone several lessons ago. Those tasks on reading comprehension or listening comprehension might be tricky because they involve several tasks at a time. Not only does a student have to understand what they're reading or listening to, but they also need to notice what language was used, how some ideas were worded, and also they need to analyze and draw conclusions based on what they heard. And for many of them, those students who are not preparing for exams, who are just learning general English, it is something which is kind of not necessary, not one of the top priorities, like skills to develop. So what they want basically is to be able to use the vocabulary in oral or in written speech, but many of them are not here to take an exam at the end. In the end, so that's why those kind of activities might seem too challenging, too stressful for them. And that's why they're here on the worry wall. Along with the next one, answering the questions using the vocabulary, it's difficult for them to recall the correct collocations and chunks at times. And you can add some more points here. I'm sure you can come up with some of them as well. So language barriers are created, and that's not something which motivates students to learn the language. I would say that is rather demotivating, right? And the cases when learning a language equals to feeling stressed out, well, doesn't have good outcomes, I should say. So that's why in today's talk, in today's presentation, I'm going to share with you some of the activities which I call stress out, like get out of here. So those kinds of activities, because I believe that we have enough stress in our world around us in the real life. And I believe the learning process should have less stress. I'm not saying that it should be all about entertainment and stuff. No, learning is a hard job to do, but that's just reducing the amount of stress can be really helpful, because that will help students to start speaking. Yeah, finally in the end. And well, just why we should feel, or why we should enjoy the process of learning is because of that dopamine. Because dopamine, as Dr. Daniel Amen says, dopamine is the brain's way of saying, good job, keep doing that. And I'm going to share with you the 3 cases of 3 real students of mine that I had, and some of the activities, like stress out activities that helped us to turn from vocabulary builders to vocabulary enjoyers. So the very first case, you can see it on the screen, a student that wanted to drill conditionals. That was a student of an upper intermediate level, and basically her idea was that if she was asked to speak about something she regrets, that means, well, regretting, and by the way, that student was a teacher of English. Yeah, and teachers of English, they know that well, currently what we learn, like the topics, are curriculum driven, so they're driven, they should be about some grammar. Yeah, like in this case, speaking about regrets meant that she had to use conditionals, if only, I wish types of sentences. And what she ended up doing, like there was a series of I don't know, prompts, yeah, statements, prompts that she was supposed to use to speak about, yeah. But what she ended up doing was that she just shared one sentence to every prompt, and every sentence contained this "I wish" and "if only" phrase. That didn't sound natural. At some point, I asked her to stop doing that, and she was really surprised, like, why? I am supposed to drill, to practice conditionals here. And I said, no, you're supposed to enjoy the conversation with your colleagues. Yeah, it was the breakout room discussion and stuff. And it was an eye-opening like utterance of mine for her, because she said, like, really, can I just speak about what I want to speak? Yeah, and I said, yes, of course you can come up with any ideas, just which should be to the point, but it is not just 100% the case when you must use that structure. Never.
Хотите постоянно развиваться в преподавании иностранных языков? Школа Дмитрия Никитина проводит образовательные тренинги, конференции и курсы для преподавателей. Подробности о событиях можно узнать по ссылке в описании.
So the idea of how to switch from vocabulary builder to vocabulary enjoyer, in this case, the activity which I call target grammar band. And yeah, that's an unusual way, because usually we want our students to practice the structures, but in this case, I really wanted them to enjoy their conversations. And you know what? Subconsciously, if you ban something, students will end up thinking about it again and again. So they will get back to that structure anyway in their mind, and they will try to avoid using it, bringing a variety of language structures to the room. So that even helps to I don't know, to come up with even more ideas. And it's okay for them not to use the target grammatical structures, because if you're not sure that they know the structure, that they are able to use it. Anyway, you can include a couple of sentences on that grammatical structure to the feedback part, like after the discussion, just to double check that the student is capable of managing that kind of structure. So that's it. The next case, a case of a student that freaked out every time they wrestled with tests. And before I share the story of the student, I want to ask you a question. You can pause the video and just think about your classes. How often do you test your students' knowledge in your class? Like, think about it. Yeah, there can be various answers. And I can tell you that, well, probably 100% of the classes contain some testing elements. That means that our students are tested every lesson. And testing is really stressful. Not all the students enjoy testing. That's why vocabulary enjoyers, I hardly ever met, when it comes to discussing testing. If you stick to that test, teach, test model of teaching, if you include such activities to revise the vocabulary as gap fill, vocabulary or grammar, use the verbs in the correct forms, that is testing. Because you test if your students can use the proper grammar forms. Or it can be choosing the correct option, multiple choice types of activities. It's also about testing. Or, that true-false activity, which I have already mentioned, it's also a type of testing. So every lesson, we tend to test more than teach. And that is really stressful, I should say. So, back to that student, she learned the vocabulary, she jotted down like meticulously all the phrases from the lesson. She hardly had time to learn all the vocabulary and to revise it before the lesson. And she had her English class once a week. But she could deal with the vocabulary. She could recognize it when listening or reading the texts or while discussing some topics. It was kind of easy for her to come up with the good vocabulary. But when it came to those testing tasks, it seemed she knew nothing. Like, nothing, literally nothing. And what I decided to do in the end of the day, because I saw that it was not about like knowing nothing, but it was about stressing out. So I decided to just give her the right answers at the very beginning of dealing with the activity. That meant that a student had to, or not had to, but could focus on the text or focus on the script rather than focus on the script, on what they're saying, and analyzing and drawing conclusions. This analysis is the trickiest thing about these types of tasks, because sometimes it's difficult to justify the answer. And I helped you by providing the correct answers right away. So that's how students are focused on one task at a time. They develop a skill of noticing, they enlarge their vocabulary. And you know what? I've mentioned that I've been working at school for more than 20 years. And oftentimes students cheat when they have to deal with testing activities. And not that often do they cheat when it comes to the activities that bring them I don't know, pleasure, or that are not that stressing or stressful. So that's why you can reduce the cheating time, yeah, in your class if you're teaching big groups and if you're teaching kids, because they won't be able to use the cheat sheets, because the task will be not about like providing the answers like true or false, or what should be there in the gap, but providing the proof, like why this answer is correct or why this answer is incorrect. So that's the idea. And finally, one more case, like the third one. It's about a student that couldn't remember fancy words. By fancy words, I just mean some advanced vocabulary. Yeah, she was good at saying, okay, I like this book because it's interesting, or it's a nice one, or it's a good one. But she knew different ways of wording that. And I believe this is true for many of the students, that there are some words or some structures that they feel safe with. There is a name for those kinds of words and structures. They're called lexical teddy bears. Why teddy bears? It's just because this toy is something that a child gets, and they love the teddy bear and don't want to get rid of it, yeah, no matter how dirty it becomes and stuff. So lexical teddy bears are those words and phrases that the student feels safe with. For example, one of my students, an adult student, he used to use the answer, like to all the questions. He would say, it depends. It depends. And that is a lexical teddy bear. But then we noticed that, so we practiced the 4 different types of activities here. The first one, when a student has to listen to the recording of their answer and spot those lexical teddy bears, the words that they often repeat, or the words that are too simple for their level, or the words or the patterns which are not logical maybe in the current answer and stuff. So they listen to the recording and they modify the answer, say again, but providing different answer. Same can be done with writing. They write, they read, and they edit it, providing a better vocabulary. It's a taboo game, similar to the one that we had for case 1. But in this case, the taboo game will be about like creating a list of those teddy bears that the student needs to avoid when speaking. Sorry, what if you have groups of students? This activity helps to notice, to spot those teddy bears, lexical teddy bears. It's when one student is answering, another student might spot the lexical teddy bear and pretend they couldn't hear well what the first student was saying and say, sorry, what? And that will be a surefire sign for the first student to paraphrase what they have just said and change it. So that's a fun way to, again, to practice spotting and noticing those lexical teddy bears, or just enlarging the vocabulary, creating stories, because a student might say change it to another student's words, like every time, well, at any moment of their speech. And that means that a student who's telling a story might end up their story with a complete different, I don't know, a complete different story. Yeah, because you never know. It's a kind of improvising, yeah, and saying or the things like on the spur of the moment.
Хотите постоянно развиваться в преподавании иностранных языков? Школа Дмитрия Никитина проводит образовательные тренинги, конференции и курсы для преподавателей. Подробности о событиях можно узнать по ссылке в описании.
That's how we are creating our way together with my students from vocabulary builders to vocabulary enjoyers. And are you with us? Yeah, so that's the question that I want to finish my presentation with. Thank you very much. Feel free to contact me. You can see all my contact details on the screen. Thank you again, and hope to see you. Bye-bye.